this wonderful Sunday. It's November the 3rd. It's a Sunday before Election Day. Uh, all right, today I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 9/11 a little bit. We've done some stuff on Kennedy's conspiracies, and we might be doing one later on tonight about the autopsies and stuff with Kennedy and the stuff that was going on with that. But today I thought we'd want to do one probably on 9/11. And we're going to take a look at what went on with World Trade Center number 7. A lot of people didn't even know about World Trade Center 7, and today we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to take a look a little bit at the Pentagon and what was going on there. So without further ado, let's see if we can cut right into this thing. Here we have World Trade Center 7, and I don't know if I've got the photo. It was part of the establishment there with towers 1, 2. This was number 7 in the series of buildings that was in that cluster. Now, what I'm going to do here in this 32-second video is I'm going to play this, and I'm going to show you that this building, now it fell at 5:20 that day on 9/11. A lot of people don't know that, and it's shocking that a lot of people don't know that. But in this video, you will see it fall in its own footprint. And you, as the American public, you tell me what's the first thing that goes through your mind. And please remember to like, subscribe, and to comment. Here we go. Right in its own footprint. Some more videos of it. There's a side view of it. Why doesn't most Americans know about this building? Look at that. Wasn't even hit by a plane. And it went down in free fall speed. Look at that. All right. So let's go back out of this. And let's minimize it. Okay. So what is this? What took place there? Well, we were told that it was fires that caused this building to collapse. And this building housed the largest base outside of Langley, Virginia for the CIA. It also housed Rudy Giuliani's emergency bunker. It also housed the SEC, which, by the way, at this point in time, they were investigating Enron and WorldCom, but all that evidence was lost. And trying to think, there was another. I think it also housed something with the Secret Service. I'm not for sure on that last one, but the rest of the stuff was all housed in this building, a 47-story skyscraper that was not hit by a plane. And again, I will play it for you to see that it falls right in its own full footprint. Look at that. I mean, buildings shouldn't fall like that. Where is the resistance of the parts of the building that still should be strong? I mean, even if any of it was to fall, physics would tell you that only a portion could crumble, not the whole building. I mean, it collapses in the center and just falls straight down. Well, in the next thing here, we got, this is from Architects and Engineers website. They do, if you get a chance, check them out. Architects and Engineers for 9/11 have been doing this for years and talking about what happened. And these are experts that has discussed all the stuff that would have happened with all the things that took place in New York City that day. So I'm going to play a short excerpt of this, and they're going to be talking about World Trade Center 7.
He's out and just dropping them. That's how fast the building came down, for over 100 feet. And the only way you can get that is when there's zero resistance. And so what we're looking at is a building just coming straight down, falling right through itself with zero resistance. Buildings don't have zero resistance, which is why you feel comfortable walking into a building.
This building had 40,000 tons of structural steel in its structural system, and that is intended to keep it from going anywhere.
I'd heard people say, well, it came down at free fall or close to free fall and so forth, so I decided I'd measure it myself. I had a simple tool at the time called Physics Toolkit, which allowed me to take a video and put a dot on each frame to follow the motion of things. And I realized that it's actually coming down at free fall, pretty much dead on the acceleration of gravity. Well, NIST, in their final draft, was saying that the building came down with 40% longer than free fall time.
How can such a publicly visible, easily measurable quantity be set aside?
A free fall time would be an object that has no structural components below it. There was a structural resistance that was provided in this particular case.
He was making our case for us. You can't have free fall when there's support. And in the final report, they modified it and they actually admitted there was a period of free fall involved. But they never changed their model. Like, how do you all of a sudden allow for free fall when they just got done explaining how it couldn't have been in free fall?
NIST is telling us that the building below it ceased to exist for the first few seconds of the collapse of the building. Well, things in physics just don't cease to exist and cease to resist the forces that are on them. The building didn't disappear so the building can fall for 100 feet at free fall speed. That's impossible. That's a violation of the fundamental law of physics that says that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction.
If floors fall, they tend to fall and are braced by the floor directly beneath it. And there's some delay there.
Because of redundancy, because of all the other columns in the building that were not affected.
Even if a floor were to collapse, it still wouldn't be able to collapse all of the connections simultaneously at the rate that it did without secondary explosions.
So, there you go. So these experts have discussed this, they have talked about it, they have told us that, there's no way in the world that you could just have something just like it got its legs swept out from under it and it's going to fall free fall speed. And, it would be like if somebody stood up there, it's like even Towers 1 and 2. For Towers 1 and 2 to collapse, it would have took 10 seconds by the law of physics for it to hit the ground. Well, watch the video and you see this thing and you see that it only took 10 seconds for the building to actually come down. Meaning that if you took a tennis ball and dropped it off the top of the Towers 1 or 2, it would have took 10 seconds for that ball to hit the ground. The building fell at that speed. If there's any resistance, anything that right below it, it would have slowed it down. It wouldn't have fell that quick. It would have been a slower rate. Obviously, this building also as well, World Trade Center 7, also collapsed at free fall speed. No denying that the video can't lie. And they don't want the American people to see this. They hid this from the American people for a long time. And if you look on the screen here, like Dr. Jones here and a few of these others, they came up to a town near us and gave a seminar years ago. And the place was filled with at least 5,000 people. And they asked the question, how many of you heard of World Trade Center 7? And only half of the people raised their hands. Well, that ought to tell you something. We all know about Towers 1 and 2 collapsing, but why didn't we know about World Trade Center 7? It, like itself, was a building. It's only the third building in the history of the world, a metal structure building fell over because of fire. The other two, Towers 1 and 2, that same day. All right, let's get out of this. Let's go to the next thing here we got up here. Now, this is interesting because this is the BBC. The BBC went on air at 5 o'clock that day, and they were going to talk about what was going to happen, and they're talking about what just took place with World Trade Center 7 falling. Interestingly enough, they went on at 5 o'clock to discuss this, but the building doesn't fall for another 20 minutes. So what's going on here? Did they get word ahead of time? Maybe. But videos can't lie. I mean, and when you look at the evidence, this one always got me. I might have to fast forward, but I think, no, I won't. I won't have to fast forward. Okay, all right. So I'm going to fire this up, see what it does. All right, here we go.
More on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago, I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were. And it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed.
Okay, I'm going to pause it for just a second. They're going to show you in the video, but I want you to particularly pay attention right about here behind her head. It is very important.
Closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of the Marriott Hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110 floors of the two twin towers of the World Trade Center. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see these huge...
Look at that, guys. Look at that. What is this building? This ought to look familiar from the last video I was showing you. This is World Trade Center 7. This is the building she's talking about that just collapsed. Yet it's still standing. Because guess what? It doesn't fall for a little bit after this. And you'll notice what happens to the broadcast where they're going to her live. You'll see that something happens with the communications with her and they lose connection.
Clouds of smoke and ash, and we know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline, a symbol of the financial prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared now, and New York is still unable to take on board what has happened to them today.
Presumably there were very few people in the Salomon building when it collapsed. I mean, there were, I suppose,
the Salomon building is World Trade Center 7
around the area.
That's what you would hope, because this whole downtown area behind me has been completely sealed off and evacuated, apart from the emergency workers. That was done by the mayor, Rudy Giuliani, much earlier today, because of, course, the dreadful collapse of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. But New York, very much a city still in chaos. The phones are not working properly, the subway lines are not working properly. And we know that down there near the World Trade Center, there are 3 schools that are being turned into triage centers for emergency treatment. And I know that over in New York Harbor, where the famous Statue of Liberty is, there's a field hospital where 1,500 people are being treated. And we have heard, though it's unconfirmed as yet, that 100 New York City police officers have been taken there as well for treatment. But we do need to confirm those figures for the officers.
It's now, what, some 8 hours since the attacks. Is there any estimate yet available of the number of casualties in the World Trade Center?
I think we can only go at this point with the words expressed by the mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani, that it's too frightening to think how many there could be. We know that it's about almost 300 people on the airliners that were used in these attacks. But you've got to remember, this was 9 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday morning. It's busy in downtown Manhattan, in the financial district then. The World Trade Center itself has 50,000 workers. There are tens of thousands of tourists who go up there every day. The figures are almost too frightening to contemplate. You can understand why nobody yet wants to put a figure on them.
Listening to the mayor, Rudy Giuliani, a bit earlier, one of his messages was, business as usual. We won't let this get us down. But presumably, a lot of Manhattan people must have fled the city to Long Island to get away from possible further attacks.
Well, a lot of people were certainly trying to, but you remember that very early on, all the bridges and tunnels to the city, as well as the airports, were closed. New York was sealed, essentially. Now, we do know that the long...
You're with them there. I mean, what are they saying tonight after this catastrophic attack?
As I said, many just cannot believe this has happened, and I've seen big burly men and women with tears in their eyes today, shaking their heads, wondering what on earth is going on. There was a sense of panic. Our reports from the scene were of people just absolutely horrified, and I've already seen some photographs of that a man took down in the downtown area, and it looks like the aftermath of a huge atom bomb or something, just full of debris and of like a white carpeting of snow from all the dust and rubbish that had fallen. I don't think people can comprehend. They certainly have lost any really know what to say or what to think. I think they feel the bubble of their
building's
security
still there, guys.
Being in America has definitely been popped. This city and this country will not be the same. But they don't really know where to turn. That's the very sad thing. I think there's going to be a lot of very, very traumatized people that has hit them very, very hard.
Jane, I think many of us, when we heard the news, perhaps on the radio earlier today, were completely flabbergasted.
Now you see it right now? They're starting to scramble the connection with her. What's going on there? Well, because this building's about ready to come down. It's going to come down in about 5 more minutes. So they're talking about like the building has collapsed already. They've been talking for almost 7 minutes, talking about how the building went down, yet the building's still behind her and it's still standing. And now they're starting to lose connection because they're about 5 minutes outside of it.
Flabbergasted by it and just couldn't comprehend it. I mean, it almost sounded too far-fetched. I was wondering what it's felt like for you being in Manhattan. Well, unfortunately, I think we've lost the line with Jane Stanley in.
Well, we lost the connection with Jane Stanley because Jane can't be on the air if she's reporting about the Salomon brothers falling, and it's still standing. And if it would have went down live on TV, I want to show you again. Here she is. You can see it right here. It's this building right here. And as we showed in one of the videos prior to this, this is the same building. This one right here. And once again, let me play it for y'all. That's what happened at 5:20. That's why they lost connection with her, because this building is going to fall at 5:20 p.m. and they apparently somebody, cut that connection with them. But that's what happened at 5:20 that day. 3 buildings fell on 9/11. That's the building, as you can see. Let me rewind it just a hair. Let's get it right up here, right about there. Guys, that's the same building. Right there. That's the same building. There it is. And there it is. 47-story skyrise. This is the one that Larry Silverstein, that they'd had so much stuff happen that day, they decided to pull it. That was his own words. To pull the building. And which happens to be something that, demolition crews had called it when they're getting ready to destroy a building. They call it pulling it. Do with this what you will, but this is evidence that on that day, they reported, Jane Stanley was reporting that this has fell already at 5 o'clock, and it doesn't fall for another 20 minutes. All right. Talking about the hot areas. This is what they were doing months after. If you remember 9/11, it smoked for like 3 months after the collapses and stuff. This is the stuff that they were pulling out. It's molten metal. Guys, 80% of jet fuel is kerosene. There's no way in the world this could be possible. There's no way. Months later. This is an excavating machine at ground zero lifting debris dripping with molten metal months after. I mean, there's a lot of people that know that They believe that these buildings were brought down with thermate, which is thermite with sulfur. One of the guys, Dr. Jones, I don't think I had, yeah, right here, this guy right here, he had gathered some of the debris from that ground zero and had it analyzed. And in that analyzation, he found sulfur. Everything seemed consistent with a building having to be, you know, the material that would be in a building. He everything was there except sulfur. And he couldn't figure out what sulfur, why would you be finding sulfur in this powder? And one of his colleagues told him it could be thermate because they use that with thermite to make it burn longer. Believing that, you know, people don't probably really realize this, but the company that took care of the security for World Trade Centers 1 and 2 was a company called Securicom, which, by the way, that company was owned and operated at one time by Marvin Bush, the younger brother to George Bush. And he was also the underwriter on the insurance policy that Larry Silverstein claimed on and received that multi-billion-dollar claim for both the buildings coming down. But yeah, it just looks like, and you know, he also found spheres, little balls of metal in that dust. Well, you can't have that not unless there's heat involved, which is not consistent with a collapse, but rather with explosions and really high heat. And as you can see, this is what this is a picture of some of the stuff that they saw. Here's some of the metal. This is not a collapse. This is heat. Okay? Here in this video we're going to look at, this is like 2 minutes before collapse of Tower 2, I believe. I'll see what it says here at the bottom. Yeah, World Trade Center 2, South Tower on 9/11, molten metal, northeast corner. And now this is 2 minutes before collapse. I mean, is this jet fuel that we're seeing? Now, mind you, everything up there had to be to code. All the stuff, since a fire truck could not reach up that high with ladders, they had to make sure everything was flame retardant, coated with this stuff, so it would not allow it to burn or even melt, in according to their official story. But kerosene is 80% jet fuel. You got to look at this stuff and you got to ask yourself, what am I seeing? Why am I seeing this? So let's let this play. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at what's coming out of the corner of that building, guys. Look at that. That's kerosene? What's that look like to you guys? How about my skilled tradespeople? What's that look like to you? Man, that's dropping a lot of floors. What is that? That's metal being melted. Look how far it's fallen. Look at that. It's coming all the way to the ground, guys. Look at that. Use your eyes, common sense. Ask yourself, what is this? And there's a belief that they didn't want anybody filming any of this stuff anymore. They don't want anybody filming any of these things like this. Why? Because this evidence is unbelievably goes against what they've tried to prove and what they want you to believe. That ain't kerosene, guys, and that there ain't nothing in that building that's going to do what we're seeing there with our own eyes. Okay? Let's go to the next thing here. Okay, this is the 6 frames, maybe 8 frames. I don't know how many frames this is. But this is what they said was what hit the Pentagon. Now, I don't know about you, but I'll scroll through these again, even slower. Do you see a plane? Do you see a tail section? Do you see anything that would resemble a plane in these photos? Now, a jetliner is pretty big, guys. But I don't see anything in these photos that would show a tail section, wings, jet engines. It looks like a small spot getting hit. I don't know what you guys think with that, but I've got my own ideas because it supposedly causes this. Yet that day, we don't see no bigger piece. Go back to me real quick. The biggest piece you see is a piece about this big of metal. You don't see no luggage. You don't see no bodies. You don't see no seats. You don't see nothing. You don't see a tail section. And God Almighty, we don't see 2 6-ton titanium jet engines on the side of this building. I mean, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. But that's what we're led to believe, that a jet actually hit this and caused this mess. And I'm just saying, I mean, there's even up to that point, I don't have the pictures. And I'm going to tell you, it's getting harder to find pictures anymore. But look, there's no skid marks across the grass. There's nothing showing any indication that something was running across the road there and then slamming into that building. And I just showed you the photos. There's no plane in those photos to make me believe that there was a plane that hit it. It looks like to me it could be a missile. I mean, something hit that building, but what hit that building? And if you think that just sounds crazy and everything, don't forget there is a thing called Operation Northwoods that's out there, that in that document we covered in one of my Kennedy videos. You get a chance, check that out. And we're talking about what the government was talking about, destroying our own planes, having mock funerals for victims, and trying to get and perpetrate a war that they wanted. And Kennedy said no. And he ended up firing Lionel Lemnitzer, who was the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Pentagon, who was the one that came up with that crazy idea. But that was to get us a war with Cuba. Could it have been something that could have got us into a war with Afghanistan and Iraq? I mean, this is what happens after something like this, and the country was backing it. Just saying, there's a lot more to this. I thought I'd make a really short video today, about a 30-minute video. I thought we'd cover some of this stuff. I'm trying to gather all the information I can again. It is hard now. You know, we're 20-some years past this, and it's really hard to finally locate a lot of stuff because they have tried to control this thing, suppress it, and it's hard to find. Even the Kennedy stuff is hard to find out there anymore because they don't want you talking about it. But I, as an American who loves my country, is going to look at these things and is going to question it. And I don't think there's a problem with people questioning things. I think you should question everything and try to get the actual answer. Do not believe the first thing you're told. There's a lot of people that day was speculating, and all that got, suppressed real fast. But those are some things to think about. Hot metal at ground zero. What was those photos trying to show that hit the Pentagon? Did you even know about World Trade Center 7, the Salomon building? Did you know about that? Did you know the BBC reported it before it actually collapsed? If you don't mind, please like, subscribe, and comment to this video. We do appreciate it. We do appreciate your support. And like I said, there's going to be more videos in the future. I'm going to do some more digging, and I'm going to try to come up with a lot of this stuff. And we're going to have those discussions. That's what we're here for. And we might be back on later tonight. We might be doing something on the Book of Ruth. And we'll be discussing some biblical point of views and maybe something on Kennedy. You never know. We might be talking about the autopsy photos. But again, Appreciate y'all joining us today. Love your support. Like I said, like, subscribe, and comment. I do appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you on the next video. Catch you on the flip side.